In this video, we're going to take a look at a turquoise ink by Pilot in their Mixable series, Turquoise. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the Turquoise playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you could find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading at all. The medium's the same tone as the stub, while the extra fine is a little lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 14 seconds to dry and the medium took 18. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. We didn't get any in the writing, and the smear test, you probably can't recover this if you smear while you're writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Parker Jotter with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, but we have quite a bit of ghosting, more than I want to say in general, even though it's a very thin paper. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading whatsoever. They're all right about the same tone, so there's not even any tone variation there. The extra fine took 20 seconds to dry, while the medium took 27 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. There is none in the writing, and a smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very light purpley tone at the bottom. It comes up, gets quite blue, and then very dark at the top, where it's really all just gathering there. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water, and there's no difference between these two chromatographies, suggesting we're not going to get any resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in any of them, though the extra fine looks just a little bit lighter than the stub and the medium. The extra fine took 15 seconds to dry, while medium took 19. Scrubby for both give us no color variation, and we don't get any in the writing. And the smear test, there is a chance you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it actually performed fairly well. Yes, it did spread a little bit, and the very top of the lowercase h has a little bit of blowout. But you can fully read everything there. Now, while I would not use it in a note-taking situation, you could. Water is reactivating and lifting much of, but not all of this ink. Pen flush, you start to see some of the white of the paper coming through. It did only take water to get this out of my pen. And the 1/3 bleach solution, you're not going to need it, but it destroys it. The next writing sample is done on life paper. No bleeding, minor ghosting, just the tiniest bit. No feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub, and the medium looks just a hair darker than the stub. The extra fine took 14 seconds to dry, while the medium took 18, and the scrubby for both said no color variation because the writing agreed. In the smear test, you may be able to, maybe, recover if you smear while you're writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Pilot's Mixable Turquoise has a viscosity of 1.46, making this a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity is tested and the bell curves made, then there's a link to that video down in the description. Now, let's take a look at Levenger paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading at all. The extra fine is noticeably lighter than the stub, and the medium is again just a hair darker than the stub. The extra fine took 4 seconds to dry while the medium took 7. The scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We didn't get any in the writing, and the smear test you probably could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Pilot's Mixable Turquoise has an average dry time of 19 seconds, making it normal. The last writing sample is done on Franklin-Christoph paper. Now what we're seeing is not a normal behavior with the Franklin-Christoph paper. It makes me feel that this is a little bit more aggressive ink than it was showing in some of those treated papers. There's a lot of spotting coming through. None of this touches the paper underneath, but it does mean that you could not use the back of the page, or at least I know I couldn't. But on this side, we have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade occurs. The stub and the medium are the same tone, while the extra fine's certainly lighter than the both of them. Extra fine took 3 seconds to dry and the medium took 4. Scrubby for both give us no color variation, and there is none. And the smear test you probably could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Pilot's Mixable Turquoise, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a brown ink so that it could match the turquoise or blue if you saw it that way. I went with Sailor's Hakodate Gagone. Now if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Pilot's Mixable Turquoise? This is a very blue leaning and very dark turquoise. I don't care for it. And personally, I don't see it being very useful in ink mixing. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? If you must, I suggest a dry fine to really lighten up its tone. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Ackerman's number 19.